Good evening. I'm Patricia Nicholson-Richards, and I'm pleased to be your moderator this evening. So as you may be aware, the District Town Hall meetings are a series of meetings where members of the Executive Council listen to you and really have a conversation, ensuring that they involve you, the public, in the process of governing Tobago, all towards developing our beautiful island, the greatest little island on the planet, Tobago. This evening, we are in the Bagatelle, Bacolet electoral district, represented in the chamber by Mrs. Natisha Charles Pantin, and she would like to hear from you this evening, and she will address you, and the Chief Secretary will also address you later on in the program. But at this time, let me invite another representative from Bagatelle, Bacolet, Ms. Antoinette Alfred, to bring greetings.
A very pleasant evening to the Chief Secretary, Mr. Farley Augustine, the Deputy Chief Secretary, Miss Faith B. Israel. Thank you. The area representative of Bagatelle, Bacolet, Mrs. Natisha Charles Pantin, all secretaries and assistant secretaries, the THA officials, community members, viewers on the World Wide Web, well-wishers. Good evening. Good evening. Nice. Well, you heard I'm Antoinette Alfred, good? And I am the chairman of the action group in this constituency. It gives me a deep sense of pleasure to bring greetings on behalf of the action group in this constituency. I think I speak for everyone when I say that we, the members of the several communities that make up this district, are elated and pleased, satisfied as well, to have members of the THA executive in our space. Did I speak for everyone? Nice. Now, this opportunity or privilege has been afforded us, members coming from several areas. We here this evening represent Concordia, Mason Hall, Frenchfield Road, French Fort, Scarborough, Bacolet Gardens, and where I am from, Bagatelle. We are indeed happy to engage members of the THA executive with frank but respectful discussions on issues that concern us, to highlight observations and share our feelings or our ideas on how we can fix things. Do you all agree? Give me another man. Nice. I hope that we, the participants, will leave here satisfied, hopeful, and assured that our needs would be met. We have come quite expectant, ready and eager to learn of the new ideas and plans the Executive Council has for our district. With this being said, this is the greeting from our constituency. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Antoinette Alfred. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to turn your attention to the screen for a video presentation.
This water had continued flowing here for years upon years.
We have been here averagely maybe about 2 to 3 months. But the actual work, it took about maybe a month to do it. Because I said, you know, you keep doing overwork, you kind of recurring problem with the weather. The water is going to come direct from the road, right? Use this drain. This is a 30-meter drain. Use this drain and come back down into the river down that side, right? So it's going to avoid the water flowing into the lady's property, right? And it was cut in the bank also because the water was out of control. All the bank here was cut. We lost some plants here, lost some citrus, some bananas, I think. We alleviate the problem with the water, back down into the drain. And I say we're just about 95% complete. So maybe in a week and a half time, based on the weather, we'll be out of here.
It will ease my distress a lot because it takes all the water from the road down into the river. So no more of the road water will be flowing on the property to help keep away the landlord.
There were some big stones there. We had to move them with hand because tractor can't come down here. The terrain, as I said, was bad. We had to make chutes, man-made chutes, because we don't have the kind of concrete chutes that we could have used. So all in all, it was challenging. But, you know, the workers work hard. They really work hard to cooperate.
I'm feeling very happy and pleased with the workmen and them. From in front, they went very slow because with that heavy rain last year, it keep them back a lot. They could not have do anything. So I'm very pleased about the job that they are doing. I'm very happy that they almost complete the train.
As I said, the cooperation from the workers, from the property owner, my supervisor, Mr. Jaisdale, Mr. Clark, and Mrs. Pereira, they were really instrumental. The cooperation was 100%.
Well, I, Veronica Alexander, is saying thank you to the TJ and the workmen. I'm very pleased at them. I make a lot of friends with the men and them. So I must thank them a lot.
The Tobago House of Assembly implementing solutions all towards a better Tobago. So now is where you get to hear from your area representative. Let us stand and welcome Mrs. Natisha Charles Pantin to bring remarks.
Good evening, everyone. Let me stand on the previously established protocols. I want to first thank all of you for giving me the opportunity to serve you.
This water had continued flowing here for years upon years.
Now, the policy of this administration, when I got in, is continuous work. And we must continue to work together to improve the quality of life for all of us in Bagatelle, Bacolet. So I want to cue the gentleman at the back to open up the slideshow to show what we have done together for 1.5 years. All right? So, right, this is me at the children's Christmas party that we had recently, right? So you can go on to the next slide. And this is the bridge that started before our time, and thanks to the Division of Infrastructure, they completed the bridge at Kokowati Trace Mason Hall. Also at Friendsfield, there are 2 steps, one leading to the highway from down inside the village, and under the Division of Food Security, we would have refurbished those steps. All right, so I want to thank my division staff as well. Moving on, also in Friendsfield, you would have seen the drains under the Division of Infrastructure. Let me say the Tobago House of Assembly. Right, the Tobago House of Assembly, they would have completed the drains at Friendsfield. Right. These, we installed 4 traffic mirrors in Concordia, Bagatelle number 1, Bacolet in Delpes Drive, and Bacolet Point. And if you see any of these mirrors across the constituency, and you would have contributed to any of our fundraisers, then you would have purchased these traffic mirrors for your constituency, our constituency. So give yourselves a round of applause. Bacolet Bridge, the work has started there. After the last heavy rainfall event, you would have seen that the bridge started to be undermined by the water. So the work started at the Bacolet crossover from the traffic light. Also, you would have observed some patching has started across the constituency from Kokowati Trace, Concordia, Bacolet, and inside Bagatelle. 2 booster stations. If you're accustomed exercising up at the French Fort area, you would have seen that WASA would have installed 2 booster pumps in order for those residents at the top of French Fort, that they will be able to get water. Community bins. So we would have built this bin just before the Welcome to Mason Hall sign. That's right by Calder Hall Trace sign. And we would have refurbished the one in Bagatelle number 1. We are supposed to start constructing a bin right at the preschool in Bagatelle, and also by the entrance of Bagatelle number 1. Right? And if you contributed to any of our fundraisers, then you would have contributed to building a community bin. So give yourselves a round of applause. Right? A community member reached out to the Bagatelle Bacolet group and asked if we could mobilize persons to assist a lady who had a tumor in her eye, but also she fell, on some hard times. So we decided to assist her. So we raised funds, we wrote and asked for contributions from the business community, and we were able to bring this structure to what it is. And hopefully after URP they do the windows, then she will be able to move into the structure. Right? So thanks again for your contributions. We would have been asked to install some the names of streets. So we installed Bayview Drive, Calder Hall Trace sign, Breezy Point, and Nasalam. All right? And all of this from fundraising. Also from fundraising, we replaced the leaking galvanized. The constituent said that, they utilize the bus shed. So we want to be able for our children to not get wet when the rainfall started. So we did what we could. We at least changed the galvanized for now, right? And this was done from fundraising as well. All right, under the Tobago House of Assembly, they continue the drains inside Cradley. If you don't know where Cradley is, that is the street just before the Welcome to Mason Hall sign. As you turn, right, you go down into a village there, right? We call inside there Cradley, but you'll see a sign up at the top of the road marked Calder Hall Trace. Also, a resident of Belmont Road, Mason Hall, after the heavy rainfall event, they had some erosion, some landslides in Church Street, right? And URP would have assisted in building this wall for that, for an elderly resident. Also, you'll see some drainage works started in and around Bacolet, and this drainage work will continue. Right, and I wanted to list all of the emergency and, persons would have come explaining their situation across the constituency. So I wanted to point that out, right? Kokowati Trace Extension, I believe work started there just before the election. And after the election, the contractor just packed up and left everything there. So work need to continue in that area, and also at the top of the hill, right, near Mr. Price, he would like some drainage to be done alongside that area. Persons would have asked for a railing to be installed by the riverside in Kokowati Trace because the wall is it's constructed very close to the ground so that the railing would prevent anybody from falling into the river. Right, minor road works for several persons in Mason Hall, also in Church Street, right, drainage work. brace wall for a resident in French Fort. Right, staircase removal. Now, I spoke earlier about a staircase going down into Friendsfield. Residents wanted it to be removed. I'm unsure what would happen if it would be removed or if a road could be constructed alongside that staircase. Continuation of drainage works near Mr. Baird's residence. A tree to cut opposite Dove Trace, that was reported to T&Tech already, and they will come, and the tree is actually hanging over someone's house and over the T&Tech line, so it's a T&Tech issue. Brace wall by a household near the police station by Mr. Kennedy, right? Near the household, and also by Mr. Kennedy in Adelphi Road. Construction of drain by the SDA Church in McKay Hill. Emergency house repair for Ms. Charmin Suklal. Box drain by Mr. Ronald Henry. Cradley and Bacolet Point lights to be installed in June. Celestial View lights to be installed in July. Kokowati Trace and Adelphi Estate South Phase 2 were also paid for, and the installation of lights should begin in July. French Fort light installation has been delayed, but there are some issues that T&Tech they have to resolve, and then they will install the lights. And these are some of the fundraisers that we would have done. Thanks to Miss Flora, she's familiar with the All Fours Club, right? So she would have spearheaded the All Fours. We had raffles, food sales, thrift shops, and so we have done a lot of work in the constituency to raise funds so that we don't have to be 100% dependent on the Tobago House of Assembly. I don't think that that is what our community should aim for. We can also do things for ourselves. We also kept a town hall meeting with the TTPS for residents in the area, especially in the Bacolet area, because they would have pointed out the challenges they had with break-ins, right? So we kept a town hall meeting with the police to discuss further, strategies as to how we would, combat crime, fight crime, and reading with expression with the kids, right? I usually have that on every third Sunday of the month, right, of the constituency, and also persons outside of the constituency. And we would have held a bike show and several field trips for the constituents in the Main Range, No Man's Land, and Corbin Wildlife. Right, so I want to thank all the line secretaries and assistant secretaries, the division staff, constituency staff, Bagatelle, Bacolet, action group members, and the residents within and outside the community that they have supported us so far. So that is my short presentation, and thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Charles Panton. Busy at work not only in her division, but in her electoral district of Bagatelle, Bacolet, and she came with proof, and she also spoke about other plans for her area to be rolled out soon. Let's thank her once again. At this time, I'd like to invite our Chief Secretary and Secretary for Finance, Trade and the Economy, the Honorable Farley Augustine. Please stand as he makes his way to the lectern.
Thank you very much. You may have your seat. Let me acknowledge Deputy Chief Secretary Dr. Faith B. as well as the area representative and the Secretary with responsibility for food security, Mrs. Charles Panton, other secretaries and assistant secretaries who are present, all the administrators who are present this evening as well. Good evening to the residents of Bagatelle, Bacolet, and those from beyond who are present this evening either in person or virtually. This community holds a special place of pride for all of Tobago, because this community is one of the holders of our capital, our township in Scarborough. And so Bagatelle, Bacolet holds a special place for the administration, because some of the work that we have to do to make our township more usable will require your efforts, meeting with the efforts of the government of the island of Tobago. And so there are a few things I wish to speak about. Some of these are projects that have started. Mrs. Pantin went through several of them. And there's some additional ones. And some are projects that are about to start. And I'll give you some update reports on some of them. And then we take all of your questions. The first is in the area of tourism. And I start at tourism because this is a part of your microeconomy in Bagatelle, Bacolet, especially in the Bacolet area where we have some hotels, villas, guest houses, and some tourism-related plans. I will let you know that one of the hotels that benefited from the THA's intervention with paying for the reserve capacity comes from the Bacolet area, from this district. So this district was a recipient partly of that support. And let me pause to explain what that is, because there are some people trying to make some noises that really does not make sense. The reserve capacity is what an industrial plant will ordinarily pay. So if you have a facility that is significantly large, Tiantec will come and will estimate that every single billing cycle, your capacity is at this particular point, and whether you use that capacity or not, you must pay the reserve capacity fees. One of the things we did as we got into office was to get to Tiantec by way of its board, its CEO, and its line minister to say, look, COVID had our hotel shut down for such a long period. I remember when we came into office in December, our economy was still locked out. In fact, the Tobago economy only reopened in April last year. Only in April last year, when we got half of the usual domestic flights, a return of half of the flights. The beaches were still closed up until about late January, February. And we're saying, but our hotels had to be closed. Our hotels, at the start of COVID, they started off by paying their staff, hoping that this COVID thing will just be, a few weeks and it will blow over. And they found themselves in a position without this sort of operating capital to manage the enterprise. So we asked Tiantec, we said, look, waive the reserve capacity, because these hotels, some turn off the junction box, as we call it. They stop paying pool and pool boys, they're not using as much electricity. And Tiantec's position was that, and still is that, they could not agree to remove the reserve capacity for these establishments, because if they do it for Tobago establishments, then Trinidad businesses will ask too. And then I made another point, which is that in Tobago, 100% of our energy consumption are produced by Tiantec. Unlike Trinidad, where Tiantec purchases energy from PowerGen and other companies, it's all in-house in Tobago, so it is easier to waive that reserve capacity for Tobagonians, and they refuse. Matters got to a point where I am on the phone with the CEO of Tiantec, the head of Tiantec Tobago, and they are saying to me, well, we are scheduled to shut down this hotel today, the next one by Thursday, and I'm saying none of that. And so, based on that premise, we staged an intervention, which was the responsible thing to do, and I'm happy to report that your district benefited from that intervention from the Tobago House of Assembly. The second thing I wish to speak about here is community development. And of concern to me is that as we are preparing the program, we are being told that the community does not have a village council. And you see, the shift happened when they shifted the electoral district boundaries too. That meant that some people who would have ordinarily caucused with people on this side are no longer on this side. And so there is a need for the community to get together and have a village council. You have to go beyond action groups and NGOs and community-based organizations and faith-based organizations and find a way to get a village council thriving again in this electoral district. And so that's a challenge I'm throwing out to the community. Rally around each other, pull each other together, get in touch with community development. The line secretary is here this evening. Get in touch with community development, and they will send their officers to guide you through the election paces. They will provide for you copies of the governing arrangements for village councils or community councils, and then you take it from there. The third area I wish to speak about is the area of natural disasters. And I wish to speak about it, well, for several reasons. One of which is that we are currently at Fairfield Complex, which has become over time the home, the headquarters for our disaster management response. Last year when we had the inclement weather, the higher than usual levels of rainfall, and we're having the floods and the landslides and so on, it was from this place that I was coordinating the disaster management response of the island. And there are several things that will happen in and around this space, because there was a plan to build a facility up at Signal Hill to treat with disaster response. But for the time being, we are here, because this is where our resources can allow us to be. And with collaboration between the Office of the Chief Secretary and Community Development, we are currently working on a plan whereby the NGOs, that's the non-governmental organizations that are housed here, and some of the NGOs that are housed here, to be honest, you perhaps can't tell when last you opened the doors to your offices here or had meetings here, but we are working on a plan to make you more centrally located so that you will be more into the heart of the town, and we will be able to then utilize some of the additional spaces in this facility to treat with two things. Treat with our disaster response, because there is still a need for us to grow out some more, and also to house, as an initial step, the Department of Safety and Security for Tobago, which is critical. We are seeing the levels of criminality around the country increasing. We are at number 7 with regards to murders. So if we check the trajectory and compare it to last year, we are slightly ahead of last year's path. And we don't want to get like our neighbors. When a neighbor's house is on fire, it's time to wet yours. And although security is not listed as one of the items on technologically advanced school that they will need. So we listened. We listened and we walked across the road behind the health center. So we're still in this electoral district, behind the health center, where the Tobago House of Assembly already owns a little over 29 acres of land. Behind the health center, we have started conversations with the residents in the area, and we thank the residents in the area who have been a part of that conversation. And I'm seeing smiles because when it came up in our meeting, two of my members trying to own this one piece of land. One person saying, once it's on that side, is Bagatelle, Bacolet. The next person saying, it belongs to the Mount St. George district. Either way, they both will share it and take responsibility for the plant when it's built. But we started the conversation with the residents, and we also visited the site with the stakeholders who agree that that is a better site, and they were much more comfortable with that site. We completed the survey works for the site already, and the Executive Council passed and confirmed the minute that the site will now house Scarborough Secondary School. And there is a team led by Miss Nikisha Powder, who works out of the Division of Infrastructure. She is one of the resident architects within the THA, and they are currently developing the scope. We were initially going to design the school all in-house to save money, but we have come to the conclusion that we will outsource that, put that out to tender, so that we can save time, right? Because time is of the essence where Scarborough Sec is concerned. 29 acres, that's a lot of acreage, and so beyond Scarborough Secondary School, there are two other things that they are considering as part of the plant, and that's of course topography, space, and natural geographic features allowing, because that piece of land has one small ravine passing on the left or the eastern side of the property. The Division of Education has asked the team to consider whether or not it would be possible to house at least another preschool or a primary school in the area. Of course, that will come second to ensuring that the needs of Scarborough Secondary are met. But the reason for that is because when we look at this catchment area for education, our schools are full within this catchment area, and the THA needs to find a solution quickly to be able to accommodate our young children. Moving on from Scarborough Secondary School, this is one of the things that Mrs. Pantin forgot, is that we installed 2 early flood warning systems in her electoral district, one at Crooks River along the highway where Crooks River crosses the Claude Noel Highway, and that's just behind the bus shed coming off of Rockley Vale traffic light. And the other early flood warning system was installed by the bridge just before you ascend into French Fort. So those early warning systems is to allow TEMA to be able to get a hint when the river levels are dangerously high, which means that we can take some action downstream to ensure that we mitigate against floods. This will assist Scarborough, because we know the Crooks River often comes down, floods have to flood out Scarborough, the tide high, the flood comes down, Scarborough is flooded out, that area around Viewport and so on tends to suffer quite a bit. So that will help in that regard. And then for the residents in Friendsfield and that side of Collar Hall, you should benefit, and even parts of Bacolet, you should benefit from the early warning system by the bridge before you ascend to French Fort. Mrs. Pantin spoke about street lighting, and yes, there are some lights that were paid for, and she spoke about it. We already paid for lighting in some areas in the district, And she mentioned that Tiantec has advised that they will get all the equipment and the parts for the installation, because this is actually the single largest payment to Tiantec for new lights installation in a very long time for Tobago. You're talking about in excess of $3 million in just lights alone, to ensure that areas that were without light will get light. And the first preference were for communities, living communities where people live and have not had access to electricity, not just lights, but electricity. However, there is one project that we have been discussing in the Executive Council for a while, that we will seek to action before the end of the fiscal year, and that is street lighting for French Fort. Now, the reason for that is because we recognize French Fort as Tobago's version of, I guess, Lady Chancellor Hill, in terms of the number of people that go there on an evening to exercise. And we want Dr. Faith and the team at TRHA to spend less money on health care, because we are preventing communicable diseases, because we are getting out and we exercising and we climbing the hills and we're doing what we need to do. So we're not getting hypertension and diabetes and so on. We're ensuring we're going out and work out all of the extra salty foods and the foods heavy in coconut juice and all the ground provision and complex and simple starches that we consume. And so to make the area safer, we are currently looking at installing lights going up street French Fort, so that people can exercise later into the evening. And in addition to that, we are also exploring the option of getting some stationary exercising equipments at different stations going up the fort, so it becomes a real place that you can come out on an evening, whether you're from this electoral district or not, and have a healthy time exercising, conquering the hill. If you are like me and you can't run up the hill, then take a walk up the hill. Do what you must to keep moving, so that you take good care of your health. And so with that, we look forward to all of your questions, and we look forward to also solutions for how we can help this district go from strength to strength. Good evening.
Chief Secretary, the Honorable Fali Augustine, outlining some of the plans and projects to be rolled out in the electoral district of Bagatelle, Bacolet. Let's hear it for him one more time. So we are now at the question and answer segment. This is where we open the floor for you to have your say, members of the electoral district. So as you make your way to the microphone, we ask you to clearly state your name, keep your contribution concise, and keep it respectful. So the floor is open for you to have your say.
A pleasant good afternoon to the panel and to all the residents of this electoral district. My name is Francine George, and I'm from 46 Phase 2 Cutler Hall. My situation here, let me give you a little history. In October of 2021, some of the staff members from the Settlements Division came to visit me because I have a long-standing issue and certain things began putting in place to rectify that issue. However, shortly thereafter, the election date was called. One of my main questions to the staff members were, should the PNM not return into administration, what would be my situation? And they told me nothing would change. I have that on my phone in text, in the event that anyone would like to have a look at it. However, when the administration came into being, the new one that is, the secretary for that division, I was told he had COVID. And he was not able to visit me until May of this year. However, I am of the understanding that he was brought up to date of my situation, along with the woman whom you all just gave the house to down at Bonaccord. I think her name is Miss Jean or Miss something like that. Anyway, I visited the office a couple times, and I've recently been told that they are prioritizing and I should seek legal advice. My question tonight is, if they are prioritizing, when would I be prioritized? And if they are prioritizing, why should I, or why do I have the need to seek legal advice? And what has caused this 360 degrees left turn all the way different to what I am fully aware of? I'm also being told that they are not seeing anything in my file to corroborate what the past or previous staff members had related to me. And that is my question to you tonight, Mr. Chief Secretary Fali Augustine. Also, when we spoke at the first meeting down at Plymouth Bethesda, you had given me an assurance that at the end of January, I would have heard something from you. To date, I am even unable to get a meeting on one of your public days to hear anything at all from you. Thank you.
I don't go too far yet. The secretary for the division, because he's saying that they're not finding anything on the file.
Yes, that is what I was told.
In fact, we had a conversation about the house. I have not seen the house, but we had a conversation about the house. And I had spoken to the line secretary and so on about it. And your area rep, because I assumed your area rep was Mr. James.
Yes.
Right? Is Mr. James area rep or Ms. Pantin?
Mr. James.
All right, good. So I also spoke to Mr. James about your situation as well, and he was well aware of your situation. So I think can we have a mic for Secretary Pollard, please? For Secretary Pollard. While the microphone is with Secretary Pollard, can you say what sort of works were done before, specifically?
Okay, I was called into the office and shown different plans.
No, what did they do for you before?
Nothing so far. We just started doing preliminary things getting things in place.
Also, before the election, they didn't actually start the work as yet?
No, they haven't started.
So it was just paperwork they were doing?
Yes, I choose plans. Plans were shown to me. A plan was selected. They came and marked off a spot where the construction would start taking place. And they were supposed to come back and let us discuss the design of the foundation. And then the election bell rang.
What were they promising you at the division that is promising you at the time to do? Were
they were coming to rebuild the
entire house?
The house, yes.
All right. Secretary Pollard.
I have the names and numbers of the staff because apparently they were on contract and they were not rehired.
Not rehired?
No.
Good night, everyone. No. I know of Ms. George's situation, and the division is well informed about her situation, and there is information in her file. But my observation, because I sent my engineer out to visit her site, her house, the house was poorly constructed. The foundation is shifting. My recommendation on visiting Ms. George is that you need to be relocated. You cannot reconstruct anything there with someone living in the house. I think she says she does not wish to move, because I told her there are lands in Milford Court. But for my layman eye and for my engineer, is that that house, the foundation was poorly constructed and the land is slipping. So it's not an easy fix, as Ms. George is saying. It was poorly constructed from conception. Now, just Monday, I sat with the administrator, and there is a document in her file stating that there is a problem, but she needs to send something to, I think it's National NHA in Trinidad, and like they are willing to fit the bill, because that was a project under, I don't know where the fund, where the documentation, but she has something has to go to.
So your home was initially a government house, meaning a government built home?
My house was, I got that spot there from under project execution unit under settlements, which is a part of the NHA.
Okay, so there's something in the file saying that NHA is willing to foot
yes,
the bill.
There is. I saw it up to Monday.
Right.
And that's why when the administrator told me, I would find, well, if this was in your file, this should have been sent to them for them to address the situation.
So today is Tuesday. Can you make some time by Monday coming for Ms. George to come in and so that the administrator can give clear instructions and steps as to what should be next for her, please?
Yes, that could be done.
Set up a meeting for her, please.
That could be done, Chief. But
let the administrator pull the file, look at the what is there, and also the administrator should make contact with the PS that has responsibility for housing in Trinidad, so that we can go through the relevant line ministry, division to ministry, and get the necessary help for her. But the larger question you have to contemplate on as well, Ms. George, is that if the engineer report and also Mr. Pollard's layman report is correct, that you will have to be evacuated for the home to be rebuilt, or for a home to be built for you, is that something you are willing to do?
Yes, I don't mind being temporarily relocated for that to take place.
Do you have objections with moving from that specific site? And here is why. Sometimes I know we have ancestral connections to land. You know, your neighbor string buried there and you want to stay there. But sometimes to be able to construct on some of the sites in Tobago, it will cost far less to relocate and build elsewhere. What do I mean by that? I don't know your circumstance and where you live, and if the land is slipping, it might require as well retaining systems to be put in place for a sturdier house to be built. And then the overall cost of that might be one that could give us 2 houses, for example. So do you have any objection to being moved to another location, a safer location for your home, or are you absolutely tied down to your ancestral land that you have there at the moment?
To be honest, I would prefer to remain there, because the houses on the right of me and on the left of me are not shifting. So it's not about the land itself shifting, as Mr. Pollard says, it's because the foundation, which is also in the reports, was badly constructed, which is no fault of mine, because at the time, the government office under which it was being managed while it was being built, they had a government building inspector who was supposed to see to that.
And that is why the ministry, I don't think it's called NHA again, but that is HDC it's called now. They will have to foot that bill, but administrator to PS, they can work out an arrangement where we foot the bill up front and we just get a commitment from them that they will reimburse us the money. Just get that in writing from the ministry, PS to administrator, and then we could take it from there.
Well, that's no problem, Chief, but I'm saying this has been on a file, and it's this is systematic of most of the development that we met constructed by the former regime. There's always a litany of problems that we are now faced with. So this document on her file is not something that was newly placed. That has been there for a while. This needs to be sent to them in Trinidad and they will fill the cost. The reason why it wasn't sent forward, I don't know. But I gave her the option on my lay term, you need to move from this spot. Because as she said, I observed the two houses opposite and nothing is happening to them. And she even told me that probably the ground beams were not tied in. That is what is causing some of the problem.
That means the contractor didn't know what he was doing either. So what will have to happen, at least at that initial phase, set up the meeting with the administrator and Ms. George to explore the contents of the file, have the administrator reach out to the PS for the line ministry in Trinidad to look at getting the funding to rebuild the home. In the interim, what can happen once the construction is about to start is that we can offer you a rental arrangement unless you have a place that you can stay where the construction is. But I will be willing to support us paying the money up front and the ministry paying us back, because I wouldn't want us to wait on the natural bureaucratic process to get the money from Trinidad to do the work for her, and then something worse happens. I prefer we move up front, but just get the commitment from them. I think Ms. George has a follow-up question.
Yes, and on a point of note, I don't think that there is such an aversion that the previous employees could not be given a phone call to get some update as to the status, if in case somebody somewhere is unclear of something. A phone call is not a very hard thing to do.
Or to call you?
Not to call me. I'm talking about the previous workers that was there on contract. If something needs to be cleared up, that could be done.
Oh, okay, I understand you. So that if there are things missing from the file and information missing, that they can make contact with some of the previous employees to then collect the information. Well, and that will come out when you meet with the administrator. So see if you can set up the meeting for Monday with the administrator, who is not here tonight, but see if you can set up that meeting and then let's take it from there.
Well, Ms. George is no different from many others, because there are many persons who have their documents, more documents that the division has about their problem.
Well, and that's the unfortunate thing of governance generally. Sometimes you don't create the problem, but you inherit the problem. And when you inherit the problem, you just have to find a way to fix the problem. The truth is, all of the problems can't be fixed in the space of a year and a half. But we just have to take time, work at it, and for every problem we solve, it's a big win for everybody, right?
Yes, thank you.
And so, Ms. George, we have spoken on several occasions. We spoke in Plymouth. We have always met in public places, and we've always had the conversation.
Yes.
And so I hope that this will lead to some action. I will also ask your area rep, since he has some responsibility for public infrastructure, to also pay some attention to your plight as well. I will ask him again.
Yes, he has a gentleman there that is working with him now who came from Trinidad before that was sent to look at the house.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
All right, so we'll do the follow-up. Thank
you very much.
All right, thank you. What can happen is that we can take perhaps 2 or 3 questions at a time. So if you line up, it gives us a sense of how many. So you don't necessarily have to sit and wait, but you could take 2 or 3 at a time, answer, and then we proceed.
Pleasant good night, everyone. My name is Maurice Dyer from Scarborough, and my question is about land, farmland, to do farming to make animal feed, and also to plant rice in Tobago. Right? I query a couple of times about land to be given to me to make the animal feed which I have here, and everything is just waiting on for land just to do the silo and to plant the rice and the corn to do it. So I would like to get a little feedback on that, and when things could happen for me to shine.
Alright, no way.
All kind.
Right, excellent.
Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Gloria Jones-Knapp, and I'm from Bagatelle, Bacolet area. I just wanted to compliment what has happened in the area of Bagatelle and Bacolet over the years. I'm very proud to be part of it. I'm from the old donkey cart house and the new since 2008 until the present time, Bacolet Beach Club and Cafe Havana. The reason why I'm very proud of what's going on is because Bacolet used to be a very dark hole, and now it's become the secondary portion of the city. And I must say that with the Inez development, what's happened with our health centers and the growth and the immersing of new energy into that area has given me hope, because I started off with a wine bar and populated half of Tobago. Anyway, as everybody knows, we're a small hotel, and we're now situated at the closer to Scarborough because Bacolet has grown so much. So I have two statements or two requests. One has to do with thanking the Chief Sec for acting so, how should I say, very promptly regarding my water problem the past few months. And my question is that before this development, we never had a water problem. And during the rainy season, we know that the water is cleaned in a certain manner. We don't have these water clearing systems with chemicals and all of that. So it takes a while for the water to get into the systems. And we look now that we're at the southern part of that. And by the time Bacolet Gardens and Bacolet Point gets their water, we have none. So my question is it possible for us to be attached to the Scarborough end, to Bagatelle, Scarborough, Calder Hall end, when it comes to getting our water, because of our situation in the hospitality industry? And then the second thing is a request for that wonderful mirror that you have put up. And I would like to request one for the corner between Blue Haven and Cafe Havana on the right-hand side, because I've had many trucks and cars ruin right now the whole gate is down because cars tend to overlook the corner. So either we need to widen that curve. It's a safety thing as well. Coming from Bacolet to Scarborough, they miss that corner because it's a little bit too small and a little bit dark. So a mirror might help, and an extra light. Yeah. So just to say, I'm so happy to be here. This is a first for me. I've never been to one of these meetings before, and I'm so excited, and you guys are doing a great job, and keep it up.
And just so you know, Gloria is Tobagonian. Born up at the old fort. That was just the people who say I take the money and give outsiders for lights.
Right. I just wanted to say that the steps outside of this building was the old high school. I know that from my grandmother on that side, right. I know that from my grandmother because my grandmother's cousin was the principal here. I wasn't born yet, I'm not that old. And, and this area has history. Plus the donkey cart is over 150 years old, and we're the only building that has the original architecture from way back, and I think we should be proud of that.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ms. Charmin Sokla. I just given you the story. Last year, October, with the heavy rain we had, damaged my house. You were there, Mr. Chief, and Mr. Pollard, and different people were there. What I came to find out is what is happening, because they said they're going to relocate me, right? And At the beginning, they said was 6 weeks they were going to take. It's almost 8 months now, going into. Yeah, because it happened October last year, right? Mr. Pollard did his best. He right now he have me in a rental place where they are paying the rent and everything. But I want update on what is happening. I just want update on what is happening. I spoke to everybody. I sent you messages. I sent him messages. I sent Miss Pantin messages. I sent Miss Faith messages, and I don't really get any feedback except from Miss Pantin. And the earliest I was getting, Miss Faith was answering me, Dr. Faith was answering me back, right? But constantly Miss Pantin answers me. And I just want Mr. Pollard, who was very kind, you know, every time when I speak to him, he will let me know what is happening. But right now, I'm in the dark of what is taking place, right? And as I'm here, I just want to mention my son. He's 21 years old, and he's been trying to get land so that he could do agriculture. And so when he left school at Scarborough, he went trying and he didn't. Somebody gave him about 2 lots, and he planted all that land with plantains. It's as tall as me now, right? But he don't know what he's going to do with it when he gets it. So I just want to find out where he can go, who he can talk to, because it's about 500 planting he plant, and all is as tall as me. Right? So that's my 2 points right now. I just want to find out if I'm still getting, because I need to be relocated. The whole land is moving, both back and front. My son is in it, and with the rain that's falling, it scares me, because he's just watching what I have there. If the whole house comes down, he's going to be in it. And I wouldn't like that. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Hi, good night. Good night to the head table and to the secretaries and also secretaries. My question goes to the Chief Secretary. Sir, I would like some information.
Can you state your name first?
Oh, my name is Diane McCrumman. My question is for the Chief Secretary. I hope you can answer me tonight. My first question is, can you give me some sort of information or shed the light on the audio that is going wrong on social media? That is one. I would also like to know what is in place for our rainy season, because no one can predict the weather, if it's going to be bad, if it's going to be good. Thirdly, I live just right above Tamron, and the drainage is in a mess. It's actually crumbling. A lot of our drainage at 4915 is crumbling because you have the old drainage system that they have there, and the one on the corner of Queen and Pigott Street is infested by roach, real roach, big ones. So I like to know what can you do?
The area infested by roaches at the corner of Pigott Street, is it?
Corner of Pigott and King Street, sir. And it is clogged. There are 2 drains joined together. The smaller one is actually clogged. The larger one is actually crumbling inside. We had it cleared around Christmas time, but it's still clogged again because it's falling apart. So I don't know what. I'm sorry that Mr. James was not here, as he's the secretary for, I believe, for infrastructure.
But all drains are not under infrastructure. Some of the drain networks are under health. Okay. Some are under infrastructure, and I believe that one might be under health, but we'll just need to find out. So it's something that Dr. Faith will be able to shed some light on.
We have a lot of drainage that is the canals and them have not been cleaned in years, and it's crumbling. So that's my question. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Barbara Grandison Wheeler, and I have a problem since 1997. I am at French Fort Road, and I've been dealing with Mr. Hotoy Charles, Mr. Anselm Dennis, and I have been meeting, and everybody has been coming, and nothing has been done. We have a retaining wall that started when we got the lands at Frenchfield, up at Frenchfort Road. They started the retaining wall, and Mr. Mackenzie died. He was working there, and he was working at Scarborough Sec at the same time doing the wall there. And my wall never continued, but a lot of work was done up at Lekoto. All kind of nice wall up there. And all my land and all my trees keep going down into the road and into the drain and fading away. And you all keep solving the problem down at the end of Frenchfield Road, down Frenchfort, and having all the floods there and all, not realizing it's coming from all up by the river. At the beginning, where Wassa is, where you all did some work, and I've lost my avocado tree, my mango trees, everything just going down, and my house is just cracking and cracking, and I just keep doing a lot of repairs, plumbing repairs. Every minute after we do plumbing repairs, we go, something shift left, something shift right, and I in the center. And nobody is doing anything, everybody is coming and looking, and nobody is saying anything. Because probably I wasn't making any noise. But guess what? I start to make noise now. Thank you.
I thank you, Mrs. Ganderson Wheeler. So let me I'll start by responding to you, Mrs. Ganderson Wheeler. Well, so sure.
So let me stay here to answer questions in case.
Oh, in case, no problem. So maybe it is a good thing that the chief sec has not visited us yet. Because it seemed like something blight with all the other chief secs that visited and nothing happened.
I can have an answer for that, but I won't give it now.
Don't give it now. But the Secretary for Infrastructure is not here. But you said...
I visited him 4 times already. Go ahead.
So you visited him 4 times, and has he ever sent any of the engineering staff?
Of course. So they come and they look and they just talk and they leave.
So they come, look and leave?
That's right.
Wow.
And I just keep cracking and fixing cracks and fixing cracks and fixing cracks.
All right, so before you leave here, can I get your contact number, please?
Oh, you can get it now. 335 2330.
2330. Tobago, this is not for you to call the woman, eh? Right.
They could call once they come in to fix.
Once they come in to fix, right.
I had virtual and all with Ansel Dennis and nothing happened. When we put somebody and told them to do something immediately and do it.
All right, so I don't know the area. I don't know the...
Oh, come for a walk at Frenchfort. I just said Frenchfort is just before you get to Wasser. I am right there by Wasser. Opposite, at the end, went to the bridge where you all did whatever you had to do.
Yeah, we did the early flood warning system.
And that just made it probably a little worse. Who knows?
No, all the early flood warning system will do is notify us when it's close to being flood level and the water level. But the point I'm making is, from where I sit now, it will be difficult for me to give the immediate solution because
let's go for a walk.
Because I don't know how much the work will cost, what's the length of the drain, size, height. I don't know the particulars, right? Unfortunately, and that's why I asked for your number, so that I can do the necessary homework and I can get back to you.
You should find a file, fatso, or you wouldn't find it at all. It could be disappearing just for you not to see it, but it could be fatso.
But I will do a follow-up for you, Mrs. Granderson Wheeler. I'll do a follow-up for you.
Thank you so much. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'll get in touch with you, right? Mrs. Mackerman, you spoke about a couple of things. I'll ask Dr. Faye to talk about probably what can happen where the roaches are and the drain that is clogged. I'll ask you to talk about that, and then I'll talk about the rainy season and the infamous audio.
So I've already sent, good evening everybody, I've already sent a note to my public health inspector for us to check to see whether that drain is one of those that belong to works or belong to health, but either way we would figure out which one it is and we would come to get it cleaned. If you said that you said it was cleaned in December. So that was probably part of the short-term worker, so it's most likely at works then, if it was cleaned in December during that time.
Be part of the short-term work.
Yeah.
And so, Dr. Boris, you are here, you're sitting right in front of the lady, and you're an advisor in the division. Get the lady's contact, and do a follow-up for us, please. And please, while you're at it, right, while you're at it, you're working in works, while you're at it, Mrs. Granderson Wheeler, she seemed like a sweet lady. I don't want any more of her fruit trees and her plumbing to go down in the river. So please, guys, have a conversation with her as well while you're here. But I will do the follow-up as well, right? The rainy season that you asked about, we have something that is called a...
Excuse me. Yeah, Chief, with respect to Ms. Granderson Wheeler, we had visited the site. I went there myself. It's really a serious...
So you're one of them who visit and ended up?
Yeah, well, actually, I looked at it to see what the challenges are. It's really a serious problem, and it needs some money to deal with. It's not a small problem. So...
But has the division cost the project? Meaning the engineers go, they look at it, but have they done the design work?
No.
Cost it?
That wasn't done. I know that the secretary had been there, and I also had been there. The costing was not done, and the problem is still there perennially, and therefore we need to deal with it. It's something that needs attention, otherwise the lady's house may go down the hill.
Right, but one of the things that we have to do, because if the division has been looking at it all these years, and at this point we don't have constructed a design framework for what needs to be built, then we don't know the exact cost. So it's not enough for us to say it's going to be costly. You are an engineer, so you can look at it and say it's going to be costly. But we need to have a sense of what that costliness is.
A design has to be done, and from the design we can be able to do the estimate of what it is.
Correct. So can you have one of the engineers do a design framework, even if it's some sketch framework, so we know what kind of work we have to do? You look at it, you take your measurements, you look at the soil type you have there and all of that, what's the other geographical features like the river below and all of those things, and you do a design so we get a cost. Then we'll be able to say for certainty what we can afford or can't afford and what the solution will be.
Okay, sure, I'll do that. Get it done.
All right, no problem. I guess Mrs. Wheeler want to do just a quick follow-up.
Just want to draw your attention to something. Every time they come and they look at it and they do an assessment and they come 2-3 years after, the assessment changes because the situation gets worse. So I don't know what is happening. Because they looked at it more than once and they came up with an assessment and they said they will get NHA, they will get is NHA?
Works?
And the one with N. The one with N, National Self-Help.
Self-help.
And this and that, and all 6 different departments came and they would all help and they'll get works and everything. And then you hear nothing again. And then it got worse. So when it got worse, you think they just scratched their head and nobody came back. So every time they come, it gets worse. So if they're coming to do an assessment, I would suggest when they do the assessment, they come and do something shortly after the assessment or it will change again. And it keeps changing and changing and changing. And I get really, really tired. And I get old, and I get irritable, and I don't want to quarrel. So this meeting went real nice. Next meeting, if I had to come to a meeting and talk again, you know what happening? I'm going to be dancing and singing a song that nobody might like. Thank you.
Fair enough. All right, so the question about the rainy season, I was just saying that we have something called allow me to just answer these questions, call it TDMC, which is the Tobago Disaster Management Committee. And up to last week, Wednesday, one of those meetings were convened. That is a meeting of which I am the chair, but when I am not physically present to chair, it's chaired by the head of TEMA. And it's a coordinating meeting that includes literally all of the utility companies, all of the telecommunications companies, all of the relevant divisions of the THA, the Met Office, PTSC and public transportation, the police, fires, army, everybody. And the regular meetings is so that we can plan and we can always be in a position to respond as quickly as possible. And if you notice, last year when we had the heavy rainfalls, Tobago was responding in a manner that was much more efficient than even neighboring Trinidad. Remember that one time when I called off school and Trinidad called off school after the children on their way to school and was marooned in different places? That's because we tend to remain on top of things. So already we are looking at this season, we're looking at the patterns. The Met Office has actually advised that this rainy season will be drier than the last one. But like you, I ain't taking the Met Office rain and plant corn. Because sometimes they say it's going to be dry and it rains, sometimes they say it thunderstorm, yellow alert, and nothing can happen. So we have to prepare for the unpredictable insofar as the rainy season. The truth is, last year with the levels of rainfall that we have had, they have been so high that we are still, even at this point, almost a year later, we are still doing some of the fixes. We're still fixing roofs. We still have people who we have paying rent for that we need to relocate permanently. We're still fixing some streets and drains because you'll appreciate that the volume we had last year was larger than normal. And we're still trying to push out all of that work. But we are on top of it in terms of the rainy season. We have all our monitoring systems are up as we speak. One of the things that we have trying to treat with is also transportation for TEMA, because most of their vehicles are very, very old and have not been replaced in a very, very long time. And we are also changing out some of our technology, because we have some old technology in terms of the IT systems to ensure we can respond in an efficient manner. But we are on top of it. We have been constantly monitoring. We have regular meetings. All the players know their role and the function, what happens when this happens, or when that happens, what are the trigger warnings that we look for, all of those things. So I'm not saying to go and rest assured that nothing will happen to you. And this is a general warning for everybody. We are in the rainy season. We are, in fact, in the hurricane season, more or less. There are some things that we stopped doing as Tobagonians that we need to start back doing. Get your batteries, get your battery-powered radio, get your torch lights, get your canned foods, ensure that you stock up, have your documents in waterproof, your important documents in waterproof containers or packages. Those are your responsibility, Bagatelle. Those are your responsibility, Tobago. Ensure you take those necessary steps so that you can be assured that once anything should happen, you are in a position to either pick up and run, or you are able to be self-sufficient for a period of time while the utilities might be down and so on. There's very little we could do about a hurricane, for example. If a Category 4 hurricane passes through here, it's only God alone could stop it, if you understand what I'm saying. So your best bet is to be prepared as well. Not just what we are doing at the government sector, but you also need to be prepared. Information on the audio. Well, I know a lot of people in the media want me to talk on their time. That's one thing I don't do. I set my own agenda. The media doesn't set my agenda. But beyond that, I will speak extensively on the issue. And I could tell you this is more than just an audio tape, and involves some security considerations, extremely serious at that requires me as leader to ensure I spend enough time mulling over it. I think somebody asked me today and said, well, it's about 21 days and you ain't talk about it yet. But the truth is, it could be 21 days to couple school, but I only need 1 day. Right? So be very, and I can also say with a very high degree of confidence that when I speak on this issue, myself and the executive will be properly exonerated. So I have no fear at all. So don't lose sleep over it. In fact, by the time we get to the end of this week, you will hear much more extensively about this matter and some others as well. Then Miss Suklal, quickly a 21-year-old son, Miss Pantin, she asked about what can he do in agriculture. So pointed to the right directions, 500. I don't know if I want to share it now for the benefit of the public who's watching. What can her son do? 21 years old, plant 2 lots, 500 plants of plantings, all going nicely. Go ahead.
All right. So I'll refer Ms. Suklal to TADCO. TADCO, they sometimes, they would take different products. I believe planting is one of them. They have products made from plantain, so I'll refer her to TADCO chief, right?
So in other words, TADCO can actually purchase some of those products from your son. If he's borrowing the land and so on, and I want to say this for the benefit of everyone, everywhere we go, people come asking for lands. Tobago is what, 116 square miles? And a huge chunk of that is what we call the main ridge rainforest. So we do not have an extremely large land-based asset. That's the reality. And we have to always carefully manage the land assets. It doesn't mean that your son may not qualify for a piece of land if he's doing serious farming. Ensure he gets his, what we call the farmer's badge. So excellent. So he has that. He's a young farmer, 21. One of the things you also need to work with him on, and we could give some assistance on that, is ensuring that he look at insurance. And we could begin to look at crop insurance, and also banking and how he invests what he earns from it. That will be critical to him being sustained in the industry. This is not like long time where Farmer Joe just go down in the back plant, come up with the donkey, and everything will be okay. The times have changed, and we want to ensure he can modernize. And one of the things that we also must look at is how we can use technology on his farm, because that will result in minimizing pests and controlling the climatic conditions. Because one bad weather and all 500 crops could be lost. So that's something you have to look at as well.
So I referred it to the CEO, and he's asking when will the crop be ready and the quantity, right? And if they're willing to sell at a wholesale price.
So already, no, you don't have to answer now, but you could talk to her afterwards. In other words, already TADCO is willing to purchase whatever the quantities are from your son. With regards to your first issue, very, very concerning. Mr. Pollard wants to get a go at it, but I did visit. I was extremely concerned that night when I visited. And I was extremely concerned that your son was there alone. He and the dogs are alone holding on the fort there. And I want to assure you firstly that we will not kick you out on the street, in terms of we will not end the rental arrangement until we find you a permanent place of abode. And therefore it's in our interest, in the theatre's interest, to move quickly, because we pay the rent and we could not pay the rent if you're in some place permanently. But Mr. Pollard wants to give an update specific to that for you.
Well, Chief, pertaining to Ms. Suklal, the parcel of land was identified. That's in Blemin, in our housing development, because she told me what her son was doing gardening, so that was the best place, because there's extra lands behind that could be used for gardening, so that's why they were selected. With the affordable housing we are doing now, Ms. Suklal, you were number 2 on the list of the 25 houses instructed by the Chief Secretary to have done. But with the proclamation of this new procurement bill, we now have to put everything out to tender. I'm as frustrated as you are, in that if that bill wasn't proclaimed, you would have been moving into your house by this month end. But we now have to have persons who are qualified in constructing affordable housing using alternative material. That RFP is going out probably by tomorrow, because what is happening is that the 3 Tobago contractors that do the type of housing are not yet registered with the OPR. So they said by next week they will be registered. So because we want the contractors to be home-based. So as soon as they are registered, the RFP will go out and they could start constructing. And the gentleman who constructed the first one at Milford Court, who did it in 18 days, he said he could probably do it in less than that, so you could probably look for your house within a month safely. So as soon as that is done, you'll get your house within 1 month's time.
And let me just give some additional clarity with the proclamation of the Procurement Act. Initially it was thought that we could just migrate the list of registered contractors to the OPR's list. People more or less have to get registered on the OPR website, and a lot of Tobago service providers and contractors are not yet registered. So with the the model of housing with using the alternative construction materials that we use in Milford Court, for example. The secretary is explaining that there are just 3 resident contractors on the island that do that sort of work, but they need to get registered with OPR before we can move. If they put it out to tender now, it means people registered with OPR who may not be any of the 3 contractors in Tobago who do that kind of work may very well apply and win. So it's about just trying to hold a little strain so that we could ensure we facilitate them, but the construction happens pretty quickly and you should be able to benefit from that. Miss Gloria Jones from Bacolet Beach Club, I will have the conversation with Mr. Williams and the team at WASA about if they can do perhaps even some redundancy, meaning they can also run a line coming from this direction so that those who don't get coming from east can get coming from the western side of the road. And we take note of the corner, the mirror, and the lights that are proposed, and we will look at it. Mr. Dyer, the rice farmer in Tobago, I have looked at your file before. I have signed off on it saying, yes, proceed to find the lands for him. I just messaged the director of land management, and she said that they had actually asked someone in agriculture and food security to actually identify what might be a best location for you. Because I know the folks in land management proposed any specific area, because rice farming is sort of a niche product, and I don't know what type of lands you need for rice farming. In my mind's eye, rice does grow in sort of swamp marshlands. That may not be the case based on the type of rice you're growing. So perhaps what we can do right after the meeting, I want us to have a conversation so that when I talk to the director of land management, as they advance this, I could say to them, well, look, the type of land you need is X, Y, and Z, and I'll ask Secretary Pantin to follow up with her staffers at agriculture. Because once they recommend an area for you, we will just go with it. But it's a wonderful niche product that you have, and I want to commend you again for your efforts thus far, right?
My turn?
Yes, please. Sorry.
I am Apostle Dawn Gray, and I live at Inez Development in Bacolet. I'm there since 2018. I'm the first resident there. And I know it's a private development, but one of my issue there is that there is no proper lighting. There is a few solar lights which does not give enough lighting for thieves and bandits to come in. That is one. And that development is aligned with the main road. And that alignment, a lot of water is settling there, and we have complained to Inez Development about it, and they are saying that they believe it works, and it's a back and forth. There was an accident where a driver ran into that water. It's a stagnant water at times that provides an environment for mosquitoes, so it's a health hazard. And I would like
by the main road where? By the main road coming off of the bridge? Just
Inez Development, what Inez Development line up with? From up the end, come right down to...
no, which of the intersections with the main road? By the one on the street with the bridge?
No, it's on the main road near to, what do you call that?
This one running here?
Yes, that
okay.
main road, right? So my question is whether it is works responsibility or Inez Development, because it is an hazard, and it's hazard for a very long time now.
Right, so since you're the only one in line, let me try to answer you one time. TNTech already completed the assessment for the lighting in Inez Development, meaning what happens is when you come and you make a request for lighting, the first thing that happens is that TNTech goes out and they have the engineering people who will determine the number of lights that will be needed in the area based on the the space, right? They will do this sort of spatial planning and all of that, and link it back to the type of lumens used in the light. They know their arithmetic and they will work that out.
Yes.
So they have completed that assessment, and I believe that that information is resident with the Division of Settlements and Public Utilities. But you mentioned something above that is something that we will have to explore, because it is in fact a private development.
Yes.
The THA can't just walk in and install the lights there. So one of the things that has to happen before the THA can get Tiantec to put lights in it, that we have to have a conversation with the owners, managers, operators, the real estate agents, whoever is running INS development, before we move into putting any lights. But we went ahead nonetheless and had the assessment done for you all. So it means that we already start the process for you all. With regards to the water settling, is something that I will have to look at. Regrettably, the Secretary for Infrastructure is not here. But it may very well be a case where the way the development was done, it leads to water coming down into the main road. And sometimes some of these fixes might just be a simple thing, connecting one drain to a next, that kind of thing. Again, I can't speak unless it's the area rep knows I've seen the actual thing. Yeah, so I don't know what exactly it will take. So perhaps you want to share some additional light, or
the lights or the drainage? Well, I'm familiar with, I've visited her, and I'm familiar with all the issues. The lights, we wrote already and done the assessment, and we started some drainage works in the area, right? So we just have to continue until we get to, yes, works have started in the area. So you'll see more drainage work start in that area.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, I think they're saying, I don't want to share the mic again, your mic working now.
Good night, everyone.
Yes, good night.
My name is Ava McCall, and I do not live in this exact constituency, but in the neighboring constituency of Calder Hall. My concern is where I live in Hart Lane, just behind Bill Brown's supermarket. There is a community bin that is a health hazard, and I believe this is for the secretary there, because I spoke to the representative for the area and he told me that that concern is for the health secretary. Now people throw a lot of garbage there. I live close to one of your executive people at the back there, so he knows what I'm speaking about. Right? And the people put dead animals in that bin. Sometimes the garbage truck cannot take out all that is there. I don't know what you all can do about it, because remember there is a supermarket right there. It is a hazard. I placed photos of that bin on Facebook. So I said, well, maybe somebody could have spot it and see it. But we need something down there, because rats are not nice. And I don't want any rat to come into which part I live. And it smells very horribly. And now that it have rain and all these things, it doesn't look good. That is my thing.
That is not the recycled bin in the front, that is in the back of the supermarket.
In the back of the supermarket, in the street, in Hart Lane. Okay. You can't miss it, because Bill Brown throw their garbage on their side, and on the other side there, this big nasty thing.
Certainly, Ms. McCall, you said you have pictures of it?
Sure.
So, okay, do you mind sending me the pictures of the bin so that I have an idea of what you're talking about? Is the street accessible by the garbage truck? Meaning,
I need to have your number.
494-8827. 494-8827. And unlike the number that was given by the private member, this is a public number, so Tobago can call or message. So send me the pictures. Now tell me about the street. Is it one where a garbage truck can go all the way down the street properly?
The garbage truck come round, the community comes and put their garbages in the bin there.
All right, so we may have to have a situation where we actually physically remove that bin, and the individuals who have homes in the area would put their garbage right in front of their home so that the garbage truck could come and pick it up. That's why I asked if the truck can go into the street.
Yeah, garbage truck can go down.
Right, so if that is the case, then we would just have to move the bin because it is now a health hazard.
Yes,
and since it is not being taken care of by the community, then we would just have to move it. So send the information for me.
Okay, thank you.
And while the young lady is coming, you know, this speaks to a larger issue to Tobago. No government responsible for how you discard of your waste. I don't understand for the life of me why we could be so not so neighborly with how we dispose of our waste. We will clean the garbage bin now, remove all the white waste, and the same night somebody gonna put an old chair set there and at our old fridge. We will go around and announce. In fact, we move from doing it as a Christmas drive to doing it as a quarterly drive. Every quarter we pick up white waste, and we'll pick up the white waste today. And by the time I wake up next morning, you see people put white waste there again. We have to be more responsible. And for the commercial users of this space, the commercial citizens, people with businesses, please hire a truck and carry your garbage up to the dump in Stolly Park. Because the service we provide are for residential use. So you can't just put everything there. Please, by all means, it ain't gonna take nothing from you to just go up to Stolly Park. Tobago not that large. Take some responsibility. And if we have all this conversation about tourists and who come in and who ain't going, the responsibility to keep the place clean is you. The more you keep the place clean, is the less people we have to hire to pass and pick up garbage. That is your responsibility. Tobagonians never used to be this nasty. We knew how to be poor but pious. The Tobago I grew up in, you go in the oldest house, the smallest house in the neighborhood, and it's pick and span. You could eat off the floor. The chairs well varnished, place well put out, a sense of pride in self. No government giving you that. You have to get it for yourself. How you gonna put it there, dog, in the bin? So you can just take a shovel and dig a hole and bury it. It will decompose eventually and help your garden. You could plant some nice vegetables. It's good, man. You bury it in your garden. Don't destroy it. And then, of course, flowers, because you don't know what the dog died from, right? And it wants to be toxic. But I mean, bury it. Don't destroy it in the bin, please, and thanks. Yes, miss, sorry.
Right. Pleasant good night, everyone. My name is Ishla Bedlow, and I'm from the Scarborough Cutler Hall area, next door, close by. Right, so this afternoon, I sat and I listened, and I am compelled to speak this afternoon. And I know that I will be speaking on behalf of a lot of young people in Tobago. I want everybody to think about this, right? When you go to a doctor, do you ask the person who you are sitting in front of if you are PDP or PNM? When you have your daughter in a school, a classroom, do you wonder if the teacher is PNM or PDP? When you're flying in a plane, do you know if the pilot is PNM or PDP? My wish and desire right now is for us to stop the politics, political party, political games. I'm looking at everybody in here. This person might be PNM, this person might be PDP. I am totally fed up and tired of the politics and political games. And I know that there are a lot of young people that feels the same. I think we are holding ourselves back from being a strong, powerful, and listen to me, my grandfather died in front of my face. And until people understand that we are all human beings that are going to die one day and leave nothing here, you all will not understand that we need each other. And you see the games, people are tired of the games. I don't know if this moment here is what God destined me to do, but it was within me for a very long time. And my question to you is, how are you going to go forward to mend the people of the island of Tobago, where we could work together? Because Miss Megan might be a good cook. What's his name? Baines is an amazing singer. I don't know why we are fighting each other. I cannot understand it. I am tired of it, and I need us to stop it. Tobago against Trinidad. We fed up. All you come on, let we help each other. Everybody have a talent. Everybody have a skill. Oh gosh, what? Sorry for using oh gosh, but I am so fed up. What are you doing? Fix the issues. It's a set of hungry people that begging. It's a houses that need to fix. I love everybody inside here. We are all human beings that are trying to make it, to survive in this land. And it's a just set of politics and games. Stop it and fix the issues. In name, just fix the issues and help people. And let's stop it. Please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bedlow, for your timely, God-inspired message. You know, one of the things I have done quite purposefully at the turn of this year is to reduce how much I respond to things that could become divisive. As in, literally just refuse to respond to some of it. And I know that I give all my PR people and probably exec members a hard time because they think I should respond and talk more and hit back out and cuss back out. And one of the reasons for doing that purposefully is to ensure that I contribute minimally to a narrative of division. For me, I like to see a lot of things in black and white. It's either right or wrong, in straight line. And I'll give an example while anybody else will come to the microphone. One of my strongest advocates and my best community workers in Bloody Bay, and I'll tell about Bloody Bay, very small community, a community that prior to me coming into office never voted never voted opposition. Strong PNM area. Never won it until the last election. Well, last two elections, for the 6-6 and the one thereafter. And I remember the first time in 2016, 2017, I'm canvassing that area, and a lady cussed me and run me from her yard. She literally cussed me, embarrassed me, and put me out of her yard. Little more, she dogs and all join in and bite me up. And then COVID came and happened. And when I was going around for COVID, during COVID, I spent a lot of time, long days, because I was one of the few people that was privileged to have a pass from the Commissioner of Police to be able to be out during COVID hours. And I used to use my pass and my time going out, giving food, seedlings, getting people to grow things. And I visited a woman quite cautiously because the first time I went, I had the treatment, but I went nonetheless. And it went from me going to give her seedlings and hampers to me picking up seaweed in Speyside, putting in a crocus bag, finding a van and carrying it wrong to Bloody Bay for her to plant. She said the seedlings I gave her not enough. I went by the plant shop, I beg and I get a couple trays well, to a point where she started giving me produce, right? And we became such close friends. I even get them easy for she to teach the grandchildren at home, all kind of things. We became extremely close friends. And that's a simple lesson in how, for us in Tobago, we are more alike than we are different. We are more alike than we are different. And I appreciate that everybody can vote for me. Everybody can support me. And I could do a million good things. There will still be people on this island who will never vote for me. I met a lady when I went in Argyle last week when a young man drowned. I went there as they were preparing to remove the body with the undertaker and so on. And a woman came to me and her opening line was, let me tell you one time. They go see me and you talking, I come in to beg you, and they go come and tell you that I'm a staunch PNM. I never vote nothing else. I have no other jersey in my house but PNM. I don't want to see you when election time, but I come in here because I need help. That was the opening line. I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. I went into the division of finance, and I could tell you the custom is when a secretary changes, all of the personal staff of a secretary, and a secretary will have about 3 or 4 personal staff. All the personal staff goes out the door with the secretary. Come to finance now. All of Joel Jack personal staff still there. Right? They're still in the division, working. And I have hired 1 personal staff to date, 1. And all of he owns still there. The point is, Tobago is just very small. And I noticed the campaigning has not ended. And I also note with care, and you should know too how prized your 2 seats are, because the election wouldn't end for some, because 2 seats for them is more important than the whole THA. Right? So they could mash up the THA, destroy the THA, stymie the THA work. If that will give them 2 seats, that will be fine for them. But I believe that we are better than that. And I believe Tobagonians are brilliant minds. Tobagonians are sensible people. I know Tobagonians don't pay attention to the divisiveness and the old talk on social media and even on mainstream media, because we are here coming out of an election where we couldn't afford a single television advertisement, and we got hammered every single night during the news. In fact, I stopped watching news since that time. All kind of way they back up me, left, right, up, down, left, right, and center. And I lived to see Tobago, looked at all of that divisiveness, and took a decision contrary to that. So I have faith in my Tobago people. And that's where it starts with us getting the greatest little island on the planet. Are there any other questions? No, I'll be happy if we get an early night off. In Mount St. George, I left Mount St. George minutes to 1. But after the meeting, I always sit, and if there are persons who have issues that they don't wish to share across the microphone, I always sit and take those issues one-on-one with them. So I will do the same here this evening.
Good night, head table, and to all present. Now, just for clarification, because I know the question keep bombarding us with respect to the audio, can we say that something definite would be said by the end of this week?
Something more than definite will be said.
Fine. So I can leave here knowing that would happen. Fine, I'm comfortable with that. And yes. I think we all are happy with that.
And let me tell you something. One of the things I have had to learn as leader of the executive of this government is that I have had to learn to measure my steps 1,000,000 times before taking it. You see, if I was in minority or if I was in another place, I don't talk long time. I probably cuss everybody and ask for forgiveness and move on with my life. Long time. But one of the things I've had to learn in this position is to measure my steps, to count my words, to to think of the fact that you can be right and disastrous at the same time. In other words, there are some things I could say even tonight that I will be my right to say, that I have knowledge of, that I should perhaps say, that I have to measure whether or not it's in the larger public good to say. All of that I have to consider before making the statements I will make. So, and that's why I said I will set my agenda in terms of when I speak, because I have to count those steps carefully, because at the end of the day, there is a state to be protected. And I will not always be Chief Secretary, but I want to ensure that there will always be an institution called the Tobago House of Assembly that can continue to thrive. And I have seen in this space, and yes, I perhaps wasn't like this a year ago, fresh out of the election. Trust me, they get knocked left, right, and center a long time. But I have seen in this space, for example, I have seen politicians in this space stand up and say some things, and I say, wow, they're right to say it. The information is correct, but it's very detrimental to the state and the security of state as a whole. I have to measure my steps carefully, and I will measure my steps carefully and make my statements quite definitively. When I make those statements, everyone won't be happy. And when I make those statements, it may bring some houses down on some people. But I will say what needs to be said at the right time.
Thank you very much. I am looking forward to that.
Thank you very much.
Right. No, but my main point is that the maintenance of our infrastructure. Our infrastructure is poorly maintained, and it would cost us very much in the long run. Now, I live at 17 Otley Street, corner, Otley Street and Wave Street and Dove Street. Now there is some water coming down from the street on the eastern side of me, on the road. Now, what has happened, I would say, might be the last 2 years. The drains are not being cleaned. You find the cutting the grass, but whatever is in the drain, like the overgrowth and all that remains there. What I observed is that the water was coming straight down. Rather than going to the drain, it was going across the road and running at the center of the road. That is heading towards the Scarborough Evangelical Church. Now, observing that, what I did last year, Independence Day, my holiday, I went and I cleaned the drain. I do not know who I should send that bill to. No, it worked nice for a while. It went on, it went on. When I realized it was the same thing was happening again, on Indian Arrival Day, I did the same thing. And when I observe where the center of the road and the water is running, you can see it start cracking. So it start developing cavity. So what would happen? You find there will be mud pool in front of my entrance. So in order to prevent that, I find myself, rather than using my holidays to do some of the things I should do for myself personally, I find myself cleaning the drain. I mean, I actually weed the grass and things that was in the drain. I actually weed it and clean the drain. And if anyone come there, they'll realize the drain in front of my entrance is different to all the other drains around. Do the fella to come and cut it. Now, I might be looking young. I consider myself young, but I'm a child of the 50s. So it's hard for me to be taking my time to be doing that, rather than the government should be doing that. Let me spend some time overseeing my little garden and my thing inside now.
I hope you plan to go and do no work on Labor Day.
I work any day that is convenient.
I hope you plan to clean drain on Labor Day.
Well, it's good now.
All right, good. But I would do a follow-up for you. Your area, Otley Street, is on the...
I live at 17 Otley Street.
And you didn't give your name, so could you give your name?
Sorry, Denzel White is the name. I live corner, I on Otley Street, corner, Wave Street,
and Dove Street.
And Dove Street, entrance. Right on the bend.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Hi, good night, sir. Good night, everyone. I would like to have a conversation with your chief when I finish.
Sure.
The name is Javon Nora, concerning a wall that was being constructed in Belmont, Mason Hall. Okay?
Sure, no problem.
They started the wall, but they just had the steel up, and they never continued, and this house is on the precipice. So, and it's being rebuilt.
I have one question. Is it officially allowed to talk about tourism?
Sure, yeah,
Okay.
it's supposed to be the main industry for Tobago outside of the government sector.
Okay, so what I wanted to do is in 3 parts. First part is I seem to be on the congratulatory run as regards to the last international travel fair that happened in Berlin. And this is a fair where you meet with all the travel agents, and since COVID had happened in the past years, the appointments that we had with all of these travel agents who came to our booth, which was very beautiful, and our chief secretary was there. Now, number one, interaction, and what Ms. Bedlow said about the fighting and us being able to act as human beings was totally represented by your party, because it was the first time ever, and I've been in this business for a long time, where the chief sec was on the floor with the hoteliers and the travel, everybody who was in the travel business, whether they were reef people or just, agents or whatever, working with us, finding out what we did, interacting with these foreign agents who also congratulated us and thanked us for being open. And I just wanted to thank you for doing that, what you did along with the Secretary for Tourism, because it has never happened that anybody with an official nature, first of all, you never saw them, secondly, they didn't interact, and thirdly, they treated us, entrepreneurs and hoteliers, like we did not exist, as if what we have done on this island is not even secondary but third place and didn't matter to the micro or macro economy of this island. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. On a second note, thank you also for the fact that we now have or will have a second or third BA flight. And the fact that Virgin is not flying anymore is a travesty, but we have Condor coming back. But the one thing that I would love to find out is it possible for us to be able to get a direct flight, not only from Scandinavia, but from the USA? We are 4 hours from Miami, 4 hours from JFK. And years ago, we used to have American Eagle. People talk about 4-star and 5-star, but people want all kinds of accommodation, and I think that with what's going on the island is that we have enough room stock to at least have 1 flight a week. Grenada and Barbados have 11 flights a week. We have nothing, and our playing field for all of the investment, doesn't matter if you have a 3-bedroom apartment, which you do on B&B, or if you have a 100 or 200 bed hotel, we need airlift. And then the next one is we would like to get Air Caribbean flying until midnight, because we have the KLM flight coming in at 7:30 p.m. and the guests cannot come to Tobago because they are staying in those wonderful hotels around Piarco. And when people stay there and they come to Tobago, they don't want to come back. So our gateway to our island, when we all live from tourism, directly or indirectly, and this is hampering us, and Air Caribbean doesn't seem to want to think that it's important for us to have flights up until midnight, and I'd like to see something about you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now the Secretary for Tourism is here. I know she's having some struggles with the voice, but I'll answer one of the questions for you. But she's sending me the information because she's a bit under the weather, and she's here. Thank you very much for being here. Right. So she's saying, up to today, a meeting was held relative to a company beginning a charter from Miami. And they have confirmed an initial one-off charter from Miami to Tobago in August. So they want to start the charter service from Miami to Tobago in August of this year. They are interested in having a regular charter. And of course, the start in August is to sort of like wet their feet to see what the market demands are. So at least from in August, you will have that service coming directly from Miami to Tobago. And while I'm at it, I am aware that they are currently reviewing the second draft MOU sent from a Scandinavian airline, from a Scandinavian airline, who wants to do a service from the Scandinavian region directly to Tobago as well. So we are exploring several options to get direct flights into Tobago. It was at ITB Germany where we were able to convince Condor about returning, and I will let you know, because in that boardroom with Condor expressed a problem that several global airlines have, and that is the manufacturers of aircrafts are way behind on their orders. And Condor came to the meeting saying plainly, look, we ordered these planes a long time, we're expecting the planes, but we ain't getting planes yet. And it's difficult to come to Tobago because we're short on planes. And let's be honest, if Condor had to decide between coming to Tobago and going to Barbados or Grenada, I don't need to read and spell for you where the greater demand might be at the moment. However, by the time Condor left that room in Germany, we were able to convince Condor that they need to come back to Tobago, whether they get a new airplane or not, and that we want to have a long-term relationship with them. And so for the people who wonder whether these occasions out of the country make sense, it is in those rooms that we negotiate with major airlines, with major hotel brands, with marketing companies, store operators, agencies such as National Geography and so on, so that we can get them to not just market to Tobago, but get people to the island. But there's another piece of the coin that you raised, which is the issue of direct flights from Trinidad, from Piarco to Tobago. And let me be very honest with you. It is difficult for Tobago to spend a lot of money on marketing right now, because we will not see the returns from that money. What do I mean by that? If it is, we calculate that we need to spend at least $100 per visitor on marketing. The fact that Tobago is so disconnected and difficult to get to, a lot of people will see Tobago, hear Tobago, fall in love with the place, but just can't come. And therefore, you would have just wasted the marketing money on just teaching people about Tobago. Prior to COVID, we had about between 22 and 24 flights. In April last year, they returned it to 12. Since April last year, I am talking about this. I go so far, I say, look, we got pay the money to keep the airport open, just bring the flight. And even with that offer, they haven't brought the additional flights. The last thing they told us is that they need pilots and they send people home during COVID and that they need plane and so on. And I mean, I've seen all kind of nice flights happening to straight to Mobay for reggae festival and so on. I mean, I can't fault them because they did some additional flights to Tobago for Tobago Carnival, and we saw how even those additional flights were not enough. People just could not get here. I want Tobagoans to understand, when you are traveling from abroad to Tobago and you have to connect through Piarco, most of the flights coming in the evening. And if I want to get to Tobago, I don't want to get to a destination where I have to overnight in a hotel and then get up early the next morning to catch another flight to go to the destination. I want to know when I arrive, even if it takes me 2-3 flights, I must be able at the end of the journey to get into a nice hotel room, take off my clothes, put my suitcase in a corner, and jump in a pool, jump in a beach somewhere. That's what I want. And it's difficult when most of the flights coming from our source markets arrive in Piarco in the night. And the last flight from Piarco is at 8:40 p.m. It is so bad that if I have an evening meeting in Trinidad, I am forced to overnight. So when I have to have a meeting in Trinidad, I have to consider whether I want to spend the night away from my family or not, because it's just the reality. We had flights up to after midnight, and the last flight leaving just minutes to 1 or just after 1 from Tobago. The airport used to open in Tobago till 1:30. I don't see how difficult that is a cabinet decision to be made. Cabinet is in charge of Caribbean Airlines, not the executive council of the THA. And if cabinet doesn't see it as a good for the Tobago space and the Tobago economy, I don't know what else to do to convince them. And more than that, I want to add this last bit for those who say, well, it costs money for Caribbean Airlines to do it and they're not making back the money on the tickets. Here is the reality. How much money the subway making in New York? They're making back their profits? How much money the tube and transportation network in London making? They just opened a year or so ago before Queen Elizabeth died, a whole new line. They met back a quarter of the money, almost $1 billion they spent to build a new line underground. But why do they do it? Because the benefit to the economy is much more than what you get from ticket sales. The people who are criticizing and saying Caribbean Airlines shouldn't bring more flights clearly don't understand basic economics. A service sector like tourism cannot work well without the movement of people. You have to get people here. And it's at a point where Trinis who have been sustaining our tourism market, despite what people think about them, despite how some people say, well, they're coming to take over, they shouldn't buy your land, all kind of xenophobic and racist thing you want to talk, they are the ones that have sustained our tourism market for the longest while. They are the ones staying in the villas, they are the ones staying at the hotels. And if they can't come, then I am seeing a lot of sweet deals online to go Grenada all-inclusive and Barbados all-inclusive. They will just go elsewhere. Because if it's easier to get a flight to Barbados than it is to come to Tobago, that is a problem. We have to see the benefit on the larger economy. And it's not just Tobago economy that benefits. Trinidad economy benefits too, because plenty of others jump on the plane and go down there when Motor Life has sale. And go and spend your money. So it benefits the economy in both places, not just Tobago. So for the life of me, I don't understand it, but all you talk to all the members of parliament, let it go before cabinet and advocate and beg for us to have the flights back to the original number of flights, please. Especially in the peak season. July, August coming up, peak season, even a great time to resume.
Hi, good night everyone. My name is Tamara Hopper. I live in Bagatelle. And I have a question. I love the slogan, greatest little island on the planet. And I would like to know what THA can do to open up the role of dental hygienists, dental therapists on the island.
I'll ask Dr. Faith to take that one. But before she comes, I just want to say this to you, Ms. Harper. The truth is, only when I visited Jamaica recently and met with students at Mona and met some dental students there and see what they go through I think I even promised 1 or 2 of them that if they can't get the help through doctors who don't seem to have plenty of money, I would push my hand in my pocket and get some of the equipment for them. Because they have all of these equipment that they must purchase at the start of every school year, the books, and what they have to go, the rigors of what they go through and have to spend, you know, to be in that profession. So Dr. Faith can look at how we can expand that. So tell us about it, Dr. Faith.
Well, I am not sure that you need me to say more than you just said. I would just like to have your contact information so that we can speak more about who you are and what you do and so forth, and we would work with the TRHA board to see how we could extend. Offline, of course.
Offline, not on air.
Yeah.
Not
Unless you want to.
No, don't give a number on air.
No. So I'm planning to leave right now. So could I get like someone close to you that can take
So
it?
Secretary Hackett is right there. Let us take the number from you. Right, so all the others who wish to ask questions, just come to the microphone now. So we'll take this as our last segment of questions.
All who would like to speak, please stand.
All right, so we have 2 people, so we'll go with the two people that are there, and then we wrap this up.
Greetings to members of the head table, onto the audience. Now, my name is Iyuzi Akeniton Balogan Adunbi. And time and again, people normally gathers and have these kind of discussions. And really and truly, we are not getting anywhere at all. And like, you know why? One of the things is what Ms. Bedlow had mentioned. I wanted to elaborate on that, but since she, I wouldn't go too much into it. Now, Tobago have a lot of problems. And one of the major problems that people are not addressing is the set of thief lands. Right? A lot of agricultural lands that have been stolen and being converted for the use of infrastructural development. And Tobagonians have a problem. When they say these things are happening, they just say, oh God, look at how they might develop the place. So the only aspect of development they know is when agricultural lands have been destroyed. Somebody have to do something about that. And how this could be dealt with, the people of Tobago have to come together as one unit, okay, and approach and deal with that. For instance, look at Bacolet Estate. I am one of the rightful heirs of Bacolet Estate because my mother's name was Elaine Gordon, right? The Gordons that my maternal people came from, they own certain estates here by right, and I don't myself have a lot of land. To say, well, I could use as collaterals or something and think to do something. Is that fair? And anytime Tobago want to stay with that other island over there, by the time they're ready to say, all right, Tobago, go on your own. We have nothing here. Right? And then too, there is something known as what? ENTREPRENEUR. That is entrepreneur. You see, entrepreneurial development here is very, very vital. And I must say, any Prime Minister or Chief Secretary that could tell the people of Tobago that Tobago doesn't have enough money and people, so they have to bring foreigners here to invest, Tobagonians must not take that. To me, that is hogwash. Because anytime foreigners come in here to invest, I will allow them under one condition. Whatsoever currency they use, in whether it is TNT, pounds, euros, or US, or whatever, every dollar they make, 60 cents must stay in Tobago, and the next 40 cents is theirs, or else don't come. And I'm very, very, very serious about that. Okay? And then too, this Westminster politics, it is designed to keep us as slaves to the Europeans all the time. So any political entities that can't really develop a different political dispensation, they are not ready. They are not ready. Who vex. Okay? I am not here to. It is not any speech competition, you know. I am just speaking based on something that you and I met here and have to go and leave it. Reality. Okay? When you look at these people, they're ripping us off and telling us about what democracy. But there is a D. But it's not democracy, it is demockery. And it's time for people of this region to open their eyes and realize that. The people who we want to rub shoulders with and depending on them to help us, they are not helping us at all. They are ripping us off. And it has been going on for centuries. And I must say, when I see they talk about CARICOM heads of government, we have no CARICOM heads of government here. We have a set of yes master, yes master, yes master people who wants to lead. And there's a problem. There's a problem. The people who knows what this region needs to climb the ladder from treader to treader. These people does be overlooked. People have a tendency of looking at a set of university graduates, but most of them have no nation building vision. And we suffer from that misconception. And I must say, I'm not trying to insult anybody, you know, but all the former school teachers who passed through the THA, it's only two who I know didn't try to act as if they're brighter than everybody else. Two.
Sir,
and I will not call their name.
Sir, sorry, but do you have a question to pose to anyone at the head table?
A question?
Yes.
Well, right now, what question could I pose to the people at the head table? Right? Because as far as I can see, people have to state their grounds. People have to voice their opinion. And this is what I am doing. And if Tobago wants to develop, you have to listen to the people on the ground. But you know, when you all just come and listen to them, when nobody votes. Right? Because most of our representatives only looking at the privileges that they get, that the small fries that the DINB and them are not entitled to, and the hefty pension. Make enough term to get a good pension. And then too, most of them too, they just listen to people in a little group, a certain circle. But if you want to move forward, you have to give the small entrepreneurs the opportunity to sit down with some of the people who you call VIPs. What is a VIP? It's supposed to be a very important person. And I know where you really get the VIPs. The VIPs are the people who have nation building vision, and most of the people who are in office doesn't have that vision. Okay? That's enough there. Yes, excuse me. I am saying as long as we does not have the opportunity to have a proper voice as these people who, like these big business people and so on, it have people that they look at as small fries, as I said, that he doesn't really listen to. And when you talk, people just can't understand you, because we are trained to always be loyal to our enemies, that is the European countries that digging out our eyes. Tobago, before I go, Tobago have to secede from Trinidad. I have spoken.
I thank you very much, Mr. Adimbe. And I believe there was one of the gentleman in green just wanted you standing as well. Right. So the final one, and then I'll address the issues.
Good night again, Denzel White. Now it's nice to see that the Secretary for Infrastructure is here. I guess my comments with the maintenance of our infrastructure in Tobago. There are some concerns. I hope the message will be passed on to him and that will be addressed.
For sure your message is going to be passed on to him.
No.
Right? Mr. James, Mr. White has been using his vacation to clean and weed out your drain and them, and the side of the road, your side of the road and them that you're not weeding out and cleaning out. He do it up to Indian Arrival Day, and I don't want him out there on Labor Day cleaning his drain up at number 17 Otley Street at the corner with Street and Dove Street, right at that corner there. So he has a concern that the drains are not being cleaned in a timely manner, because when the rain fall, it causes backlog, and some of them men, they go in and they cut last in. And when they cut last and they brush cut, they leave all the grass and the debris on the side of the road or inside the drain. So I make sure you get the message straight in front of you. And well, give your next point now and then I'll ask him to respond.
The next point I make in respect to tourism, with respect to the late flights between Trinidad and Tobago. Now, I think if you negotiate for, rather than having the late flights every night, if we can have late flights coinciding with the arrivals from abroad. So probably if it's 2-3 nights per week, it might be easier to get central government to do that rather than get it, let's suppose, every night. So I don't know, that might be a consideration.
Well, one of the things that we have been discussing and we are considering is that every night, every day does not necessarily have to have the same number of flights. So some days are busier than other days, naturally. So that will take into consideration what you are proposing. That when we know we have these flights, we could have a late flight. So some nights you may want to go to 10. Some nights you may want to go to the 12:30, and it's staggered. Also, some things can be seasonal, because we appreciate that there will be some times of the year, even in the tourist season, we know when our peak seasons are. We know when it's winter, it's a peak season for us. We know when it's July, August, it's a peak season for us. So for the peak seasons, you can also increase the number of flights. So we are at no point saying that we have to necessarily return to full 24/7 days a week. But we can measure it as the needs be, but it can't be none at all. And in addition to that, what is needed is a transit desk at Piaco. Because another difficulty is when you're coming off of an international flight and you are transiting to Tobago, just the process of having to go through to get your luggage, go through immigration and all that, and get to your next flight on time is also a deterrent. I passed through Montego Bay recently when I went to Jamaica from Germany. And one of the things I see them doing is that they have a service at the airport that you can actually pay more for. And tourists are paying more money for it. It's like a VIP service. When you say VIP means very important person. So you pay extra for this service. You arrive at Mobay, and somebody will actually meet you at the plane door. And you get a fast-track service without having to go through all the lines. Even that too is a strategy can be considered, because people like to feel special and they will spend the extra money to feel special and be treated special. So some airports are doing that. So there are a variety of strategies and ideas. Where I have an issue is if the response is to do nothing. I am open to, in fact, we are open to all the ideas, all the arrangements, but the answer cannot be leave it as it is, do nothing else.
All right, thank you, Chief Secretary.
Secretary James, you could talk about the regime in terms of cleaning on the side of the road? and then I'll respond to Mr. Adimbe in closing.
The mic. Oh.
It's
well,
working.
I know Mr. White very well, and I know where he lives, and I will ensure that the Scarborough district get to you soon.
And also, while you are here, a sweet little old lady who I'm in love with, because I don't have a sweet lady who I'm in love with, because I had no mother and no grandmother. So I fall in love with a lady, and she's distressed across at French Fort Road. So she visited you 4 times, Mr. James. And that's Mrs. Grandison Wheeler. 4 times she visited you. So Dr. Boris addressed it to some extent, and I have asked, Mr. James, I've asked for your division to get your people to at least do the design work.
The project is designed and planned and everything already.
It's posted?
It's just to be tendered out.
Oh, well, it's in much more advanced than I thought.
Yeah. Miss Wheeler is my good friend.
No, listen, Mr. Secretary James. She complained that every chief secretary in the history of the THS since 1996, since the first chief secretary since 96, so she talked from Hochoy, come all the way down, have visited, have had all kind of meetings, including Zoom meetings, and nothing has happened. I am afraid to visit because I don't want to blight the thing. So please make me look good by, at least when she tells the story again, she doesn't have to call my name in the list of chief secretaries that she spoke to about this matter, and nothing happened.
The Division of Infrastructure will ensure that Ms. Wheeler gets the retaining wall. I passed there in the campaign the first time, and I will ensure that it is done. I personally assumed that along the Frenchville River that Mr. Parks did phases 1 to 10, that was part of the work. But I since found out that wasn't part of the work, so we have a project design for it, and it will be executed shortly.
And thank you very much. Mr. Adimbe, I know some folks were getting weary and clapping and so on, but I think you raised some very, very salient points that should not fly over our heads. One, you spoke about land use. I mean, in your own way, you talk about people thieving lands and doing infrastructural development. About land use, we started the work on an overarching land use policy or spatial planning for the entire island. What that will do is that it will help us down the road to treat with zoning, for example, which means that we could pretty much decide as an island community what kind of projects we will want where. So people are not trying to build hotels everywhere, and we're not trying to build highways everywhere. And that's what zoning will and spatial planning will allow for. It will also mean that some of the types of projects that you may see in the southwest Tobago, you will not necessarily want that in Lansome or Palativere. And the land use policy will also help us to protect indigenous communities, indigenous culture, and so forth. You also spoke about FDIs, what we call foreign direct investment, and the measures that may be in place or not be in place to ensure that Tobagonians reap benefits from foreign direct investments. And I'm happy that you were not saying that there should be no foreign direct investments, but rather you were saying that foreign direct investments must happen in such a manner that Tobagonians benefit greatly by such investment in the island. And I think that's also an important point. At this moment, FDIs are sort of stymied by our land licensing regime. And what happens is that a single minister in Trinidad essentially has to sign off and determine whether or not a foreigner can in fact make the kind of land investment in Tobago or not. So even if, say, I decide to build a nice gated community somewhere, and I'm hoping I can make US dollars from it, that is not very likely, because for every single foreigner to purchase from that project, it will require a sign-off from a minister in Trinidad. And it's something we have been discussing, not that there should not be a mechanism to manage how lands are purchased and used, but that mechanism should first of all be resident in Tobago, not outside of Tobago, and secondly, that mechanism should ensure that we get value for the investment, because every tax collected in Tobago stays in Tobago. And so one of the ways in which we can manage this is by ensuring that the FDIs result in the kind of increased tax collections on the island. And we will love for it to be in foreign currency as you suggested. Mr. Dimbe, I'm also one of the persons who believe, like you, that the Westminster style of governance is not the best and the most appropriate style of governance. I am of that view. And I have mooted that viewpoint publicly before. It is why when they had the last set of consultations and conversations about amending the THA Act and the constitutional reform for Tobago, I was one of the persons making the point that there is no need for the THA to mirror what happens at the Red House and to mirror Westminster politics, and that we can create for ourselves a system that is superior to Westminster politics. Westminster politics as it is very flawed for small island developing states. At Westminster, that's the actual name of the parliament, Westminster Palace is actually one of their palaces. At Westminster Palace, they have so many members of parliament that the cabinet will always be in the minority in that parliament. In our system, the number of people we have as elected reps are so small, elected and appointed are so small, that you will always have the number of your executive dominating your parliament or your house. Always. And so that is one of the disadvantages of Westminster politics on a small island such as ours. And I have been a strong advocate, for example, of separation of powers, meaning that the chief secretary and the executive must be a separate creature to the house, and the area reps must be elected as full-time area reps to hold the executive to account in a much more rigid manner. So that's just a suggestion, but there are other suggestions. Some people suggested having an next creature called a people's house and having NGOs and CBOs be represented in the people's house. We can debate the suggestions, but I agree that Westminster may not be the best structure for us. And in terms of having a proper voice, one of the reasons why we have this without fail, and even if we are to postpone it because something happened, we will keep having it and we will go round and round and round until we touch as many communities as possible before the end of the 4 years, is to give you an opportunity to keep sharing with us. And many people have been coming to these sessions and saying that they are getting help from these sessions. I'll give an example. We were at a Townhall, I think in Pembroke, and one person came and talked about not getting water in Longbed because the pipes stopped a little above them. And when I asked Assistant Secretary George to check up on what it will take for them to get water, literally $5,000 something, if so much. It must be less than $5,000 to just run a little piece of pipe for the families affected for years to get water. And a lot of the issues you have been raising are donkey years old issues, not even recent issues. So Mrs. Wheeler is not even the only one here with an issue that is so long standing that it outlived every dispensation of the THA we have had to this point. That's what we're grappling with, trying to fix issues that are donkey years old. And I can't promise you from this viewpoint that every single one of the issues you raise will be fixed in the time you want it to be fixed. But I assure you, we are fixing them issues by issues and as resources are available. With all the resource constraints, with all of the balancing acts that we have to do, we are fixing the issues as much as is possible. And that's why we are here, not just the executive, but the administrative branch of the government, so that we can hear from you, we can go back and work on these issues, and together we can make Tobago the greatest little island on the planet. Thank you all very much for coming out this evening, and thank you for participating. Bagatelle, Bacolet is very much alive as a community, and it's not just a place that you pass through to get services from the government, but it's a place where people live, people operate their trades, and where we want to have an even more vibrant community. And remember your homework, guys. You have to go home and find yourself a village council. Create a village council among yourself, right? And Secretary Baines, they have an empty community center there. It used to at one time house your department for offices, right? I see you smiling. So when they have the village council, then we go talk we go talk clean it up and so on, so that tongue go get their own center again, right? So thank you all very much. Over to Mr. Colson Richards.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. So, and again, thank you to the members of the Bagatelle Bacolet District and everyone else for your contributions. So remember, if you have a question or queries that you really didn't want to air out loud, you can see the Chief Secretary and other secretaries for that matter afterwards. So at this point, let me invite Mr. Steve Douglas of the Bagatelle Bacolet area to do the closing prayer, and we'll be dismissed. All right, so you all can stand as he makes his way.
Good night, everyone. As we had a lovely evening, we are about to dismiss, so we ask that we bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly God, once again we came in your presence. You enlightened us in so many ways. So we ask now, O God, that as we are about to take our homes, we ask that you will be with us in our journeys. Land us home safely, each and every one of us this night, in no other name but in Jesus' precious name. Amen.